You've reached FITTV. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Soon we will be alright. When we're gonna make it work. Too many people living in a secret world. While they play mothers and fathers, we play little boys and girls. When we're gonna make it work.
Recent national political infighting is breaking our citizen voter confidence. Voters need an honest breath of fresh air. They want their voices heard. Yet there is a perceivable disconnect amongst career politicians. I'm happy to introduce to you a local representative candidate in the 17th District of Suffolk County, that's Western Suffolk County, from Huntington, Dennis Garetano. Dennis is an independent thinker, an ideas person, and we need that. He has strong family values and is pro-property owner and has been in the forefront of the landscape of local politics for Western Suffolk County for almost 20 years. Welcome, Dennis Garetano.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Dennis, let's get started right away so we can fill in as much good time with your information as possible with some of the issues that we need to talk about. Now, let's talk about term limits. What is your perspective on term limits?
Well, term limits is in fact, I'm working very closely with the two town board candidates running in Huntington right now and the two town board candidates running in Babylon. And we all agree that term limits is the #1 issue on our platform. Right now in the county, which I'm running for, they do have term limits. It's 12 years, 6 terms. I think that even 12 years is too much. In Huntington, our town board has no term limits. The combined, they have a combined years, and I won't even use the word service, of profession of 42 years in the town of Huntington. And we believe that any policy-making politician should go in 2 terms, 8 years, just like the president, and then go back to your profession.
And move right on, yeah.
Move on. The problem is we have, somewhere along the line we went wrong. There was a time when we had citizen representatives. And that was a citizen who had a profession, who wanted to do public service. And they entered, they weren't paid a lot of money, they were just given minor compensation. Somewhere in the 70s and 80s, someone came up with the idea to say, we really need to pay people a good salary so we get quality people. Well, what happened was we created a profession. And that's one of the biggest problems we have right now with our country, and also, and especially locally. You have people that go in, they're there for a long period of time, they make a profession out of it, and then they don't make the tough decisions because they're making a lot of money.
And they can be entrenched, and once they're entrenched, what do they have to change?
And why would they change? They want to get reelected.
Right.
So they no longer become citizen representatives. They're there to keep their profession, and it becomes a profession. It keeps the profession going. The biggest problem we have right now in our country and also locally is that we do have lawyers that we're electing too many lawyers. We're not electing enough business people, and there's a reason for that. A business person can't make money off of running for office. It costs me money to run for office. It hurts my business. A lawyer, no matter what happens, they seem to make money off of running for office, and then ultimately, if they don't and they lose, they can get appointed as a judge.
Well, the lawyers seem to learn how to attach themselves to almost anything and reap the financial reward from whatever falls apart in whatever institution they went after.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's go quickly to your competition. Who is your competition, and tell me what it is that you feel you can best
my competition is an incumbent lawyer. He comes from the government background. He was on the planning board. He was an aide to Steve Levy when he was a state assemblyman. He was an aide to a congressman. He doesn't come from the private sector like I do. Mm-hmm. It's one of my biggest problems, and he has a major disconnect with the communities of our district, and our district is Huntington, Huntington Station, Dix Hills, Melville, Deer Park, and Northern Babylon. It's a crazy district.
That's pretty much Western Suffolk, though, primarily, right?
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. In Huntington, it's the western side of Huntington.
Yeah.
But then in Babylon, I mean, when you go down to the town of Babylon, it's the western side of Deer Park, but it doesn't include some of the western part of Babylon. It's called gerrymandering.
Yeah.
It's just a crazy district. And hopefully the county this year has they say it's bipartisan, hopefully it's a nonpartisan committee that's going to do the redistricting for 2012.
Regarding our issues, family issues, one of the things that we find is that politicians don't seem to ever entertain family values. There's language they put out to the public that says, oh, we're going to do this to protect maybe members of domestic violence or people who are involved in the crime aspect to it, but they never talk about trying to keep families together. Is there any experience you have or anything that you could talk about that might help families stay together in your experience of what you can put in politics?
Well, I'm a community person. So I've always been in my beginning years in the early 80s and early 90s, I was on all the local charities, the Townwide Fund of Huntington, which is our united way for the town of Huntington. We funded a lot of organizations that were trying to, we had the Huntington Homeless Coalition, we had the Family Service League that deals with a lot of families. We funded these organizations. Then when I was on the school board, of course, I dealt with another aspect of families and how the school district and the education of children and also the problems that family were confronted with, because as a school district we have to deal with those type of issues. We tried to do everything possible to aid families to stay together, because the family unit, the whole education system, education funding system we have right now is based on a family unit and family structure. Unfortunately, that's not happening, and it's the financial pressures of taxes that are really putting a lot of pressure on the families.
Yeah, the foreclosure rate is very high, and there's also a tremendous economic downturn factor that's involved in all families' lives. And so you're saying that somehow in the school funding there's a connect there you can make to help families? Did I get that?
In the school district, I mean, I was also a coach. I coached wrestling at the high school. I coached Little League Baseball. So I dealt with families, and I tried to keep and educate my children and all the ones that I coached to let them understand and start them at an early age how important it is to have a family. But let's face it, you know, there are so many single-parent families. There are families that are divorced, but still there are families, and they need to work together. It's funny. And I was always told that it's the financial pressure that has more influence on breaking up a family, because I think it magnifies all the other little problems that you have. I'm married 35 years. I've been dating my wife since I'm 13, so we're actually together for 46 years.
Unheard of.
When she wanted, right, when she wanted to get married, I said, she tricked me. I said, we need to have at least $6,000 in the bank, and this was in the 74, 75, we were 24, 23 years old. We have to have at least $6,000 in the bank so that we could put a down payment on a house and have a cushion. Now, obviously, today it's a lot more money, but back then that was a lot of money. Well, little did I know that her grandmother had stock in a company, and she sold it, and she gave her the $6,000, so we got married in 3 months.
Nice.
And we're still married 35 years later. So.
It worked.
It worked.
Let's see. Let's talk about the substandardized housing that's a problem currently in the town of Huntington. There's certainly
it's a major problem in my district, not just in Huntington. It's also a problem in Deer Park. All the studies show, and for some reason the politicians don't want to address this issue because I think they're afraid to be called racist or whatever they're going to be called. Substandard housing leads to crime. Crime is up in our district. Crime is out of control in my district. That's the main reason I'm running. I was raised in Huntington Station. I've lived there for 52 years. All you need to read the papers and see what's going on. Just this weekend, there was another shooting. In the last 5 months, there's been 3 killings. A young boy on his street, Mr. Axler, he was shot on his front stoop. A gentleman on West 13th Street was stabbed. Mr. Cruz was stabbed, and he's dead. All the studies show that substandard housing attracts a criminal element and destroys neighborhoods. And our town has not been enforcing the codes, and have been looking the other way.
Aren't they looking to change the codes? From what I gather, since the Democratic regime has taken over in our town for a while, because I'm from Huntington as well,
Yes.
that allowing some of these low-income housing, as you say, draws in sometimes, but that's prejudicial in their view.
It's not low-income housing.
No?
That's not the problem. It's substandard housing. So there's a significance. There's a difference there, because we do have some housing projects in Huntington that are subsidized through Section 8 that are well kept, and there are no problems. It's when you get the slumlords coming in and putting 24 people in a house, and we have a big immigration situation in Huntington Station, and in Huntington, because it's traveling to different parts of the town, it's not just one location. So it's the substandard housing. So if someone's living in a house and there's it's the broken window theory. The window's broken, it's got to get fixed. The town of Huntington has come up with shame on you. They've come up with take back the block. They come up with public relation gimmicks. And Steve Israel was really good at this. He'd come up with some gimmick. They'd get a lot of press, and everybody would say, okay, problems are solved. We're going to have shame on you. They're going to put a sign on someone's door. Now they have this new person, one of the council people now, Sue Berlin, is going to have a rating system. They're not doing anything. They're just getting the PR, and they're pretending they're taking care of the problem. And the criminals know this. They know it. We had a day laborer site in Huntington Station. Totally illegal. It was funded by our tax dollars. $85,000 a year for a piece of dirt. They put a fence around it, and they wanted all the day laborers to stay in that area. It didn't work. 10 years later, we spent $1.1 million on a failed project that what it did was the day laborers were here illegally. They were working illegally. So how do you expect the criminal to say, well, I don't want to go to Huntington because they enforce the laws? Well, you just look at it and say, they're allowing this illegal activity, that illegal activity. Well, I might as well go to Huntington and do my business.
The people that recently they changed over that little park.
Yes.
And they made it some kind of
It's going to be a miniature
playground.
golf play area, yes. The gentleman who owns the property has, once they closed it, he decided he was going to come up with a Huntington play station, I think it's called. They have an indoor part of it, and then they have the outdoor miniature golf and a batting range and things. And that's a tough area, but I hope he succeeds.
Yeah, it's very small too. I mean,
Right.
it's not a lot of land. I'm
No.
imagining one day there's so many residents in there. If they all decide, if half of them decide to come at the same time, they wouldn't fit. If 20% of them decide to come, they wouldn't fit.
Let's hope he has that problem, and let's hope they come and behave themselves.
Yeah. What's the situation with the crime though? You say that several people have been stabbed or shot. Is that in your entire district? Is that just
You know, it's interesting. I did some. I went on Newsday has a link that you can actually go and see the crimes, and they actually have the dates and everything else. Huntington Station, in the last year and a half, my opponent's been in office. He's been in office for 6 years. There were 1,187 crime reports in Huntington Station, but in Deer Park there were 1,000. In Dix Hills there were 427. In Melville there were 600. So it's not, Huntington Station seems to get all of the press, but it's everywhere. And that may have something to do with the economy, but I still think it has something to do with the lack of code enforcement, and also the fact that the police department are more interested in getting headlines and being reactive as opposed to proactive.
Do you think in any of your debates coming up that you'll have to be dealing with the situation regarding approaching your debate with your competition on that subject? Do you think you'll be able to get through that the programs that they've already had, that he hasn't done anything with them?
Well, he's failed.
That's
He's
what I'm
tried
saying.
something,
Yeah.
but it's failed. They came up with a shot spotter. Now, a shot spotter is something that they use in a lot of the cities and urban areas where they can actually put these sensors and they can find out where the shot is. The problem is it's not a shot stopper, and that's what we want. We don't really want to find...
What is it, a shot sensor?
It's a shot sensor. So now the police department is spending a lot of money, and they've added cameras all over the place, and now they can actually know if a gun was shot off. They can now zero in on the location of where it was shot off. The problem is we should be addressing why are people shooting each other in these neighborhoods. He's tried, they've made some bad decisions. We had an annex in Huntington Station. They eliminated the annex because it was not cost effective. Well, since they've eliminated the annex, crime has gone up, and property values have plummeted. So what's cost effective? They took the gang, and each precinct had its own gang task force. So they could determine who was a gang member and who was an honor student, because sometimes they all dress the same. So they took them out of the local precinct that would represent an area, and they put them in some central location, and then if there was a gang problem, they'd send them out. Well, there again, that's reactive, it's not proactive. We don't want the gangs, we don't want the violence. We have 6 gangs that are known, from the Zulu Nation to the Cribs, MS-13, there's a whole bunch of them. Southside Posse, these are all known gangs. But without the police working with the community and working with the schools and working together, we're never going to solve this problem.
Doesn't this go back to the housing issue you were talking about?
Yes. It all boils down to the housing issue, you're right.
So weren't they, I mean, I could be wrong, but weren't they Democratic initiatives? Do you recall?
There's no question. The Democrats have controlled the town of Huntington, and since they've controlled the town of Huntington, it's gone downhill.
Right.
Everywhere. I mean, you know, everywhere. It's just...
there must be funding coming from a higher level, funding from the state or from the federal government.
Well, Section 8, yeah, Section 8 is a big, Section 8 in HUD is a big...
I mean, why else would you continue these projects that don't work? I mean, the results are in.
It's money.
The results are in.
It always boils down to money, and someone's making money off of it. Somebody, the landlord's making a ton of money. He's contributing.
So if we can identify who these people were that started this project and what money was reaped from that project, what connecting government agencies to private agencies got you this money.
It's actually, there's a group in Huntington called the Greater Huntington Civic Association. They actually have a code enforcement division, and every day or once a week they come up with a new slumlord of the week. And they actually take a picture of the house and where it is, who owns the house, and they're actually promoting this stuff, showing that the code enforcement people that don't know, all of a sudden they don't know. And I've been doing this for 12 years, fighting this town on this. But the biggest problem is people don't vote, and the politicians know it.
Voter apathy has been a problem across the board in federal and state issues as well.
The biggest problem.
Most people, I mean, I'm hoping that this program, and certainly we do have a lot of exposure, we're going to get it out there to a lot of different network stations, but we're going to have to announce it. We're going to use YouTube also to help you get notoriety. But everyone knows who, for instance, Newt Gingrich is, right? Is on the federal level. Or these local politicians like Schumer is always on the air. Isn't that a deterrent in some way? Isn't that defeating for the local people who are more closer to the people themselves? Shouldn't we have, as local people, more influence than the
all politics is local. There's no question. That's why I focus more on the county and town level, and I've been doing that for years in school district.
But don't you see what I'm saying? That
people know who I am.
Yeah.
They would know. They don't know who my opponent is, and he's been in office for 6 years because he has higher aspirations. I don't. I want to take care of my community. I think that's the problem. But the biggest problem is this is an odd year election, meaning it's in 2011. You have your county and your town races. Those are the most local races and the most important races you can deal with. But we're lucky if we're going to get 24% of the registered voters to vote.
That's a shame.
And the registered voters are not even 50, probably only 50 or 60% of the people who could be registered.
I hate to bring this all the way back to the schools, but the schools not having civic education for the youth of America is having these kids come out of school without any idea of what politics is all about.
That's right.
And they can't participate if they don't know what it's all about. So they go into la-la land.
Exactly. They don't teach them how to balance a checkbook either.
Yeah. Very true. Let's go back to the camera issues. That got me started because I'm doing a program next about the camera issues. To me, I see this camera issues in crime areas more important than camera issues on traffic corners.
Right.
For instance, the red light things, I don't want to get too far into this, but the red light thing is causing rear-end collisions now. People are panicking before they get to the intersection, making shorter than normal stops, and now there's an awful lot of rear-end collisions. Isn't this Big Brother, I mean, don't you find that this tax dollar, whatever it is stopping the taxes, the salaries for the police who are supposed to be out there doing things, Now can just relax a little bit and let the money come in that the police need and that the county needs for funding through the cameras, for what money they can get out of traffic violations.
We discussed this at Newsday, and Newsday, of course, is very much in favor of the cameras,
Right.
which is interesting since they're supposed to be this liberal, open-minded organization, but they like the red light cameras.
Yeah.
They think it's going to help public safety, and my opponent is in favor of that. I said, if you prove to me it's going to help save a life, I'm okay.
Right.
But I really think it's just a moneymaker.
It is
and
a
you're
moneymaker.
right. The problem is, in many intersections, you could be making a left-hand turn and be underneath the camera, underneath the light, and then the person in front of you that's supposed to go doesn't do what they're supposed to do, so you're stuck. You make the left-hand turn, you're getting a $50 ticket.
Right.
No danger, no one's in trouble, you're out in the middle of the road. I'm actually fighting one. My wife was in one of those situations, and
Yeah.
I'm actually fighting that on her behalf. The cameras are everywhere. It's the new solution to our problems, because no one wants to go down to the core value. The core value with this country right now is the family unit, and that is the core problem with everything, but no one wants to discuss it.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has enough information, just like in the schools, the kids coming out of school without the information. How many people go to, not that you have to go to a school, but have a family that was behind them that brought them up, that said, here's the, by the way, here's the playbook,
Right.
and this is what family is supposed to look like. Well, if you presented a playbook, honestly speaking, who would follow it anyway?
Right.
But the strictness of the rules of existence and respect from one another, communication-wise, are missing. Today's kids don't have the respect. You're lucky if they listen to 2 or 3 words before they're leaving the area, and nobody can control them, because God forbid you try to make give a kid a spanking or yell at him.
Yep.
Next thing you're arrested for abuse. So these things are all breaking down all the way around us, and you're right. I think it is the family. That if we were able to figure out a way to get the family to be focused on more of these issues, a lot of these things would never show up.
Well, I'm proud of the fact, and when I tell people about my 3 children, I have a daughter 31, a son 27, and another son 24. I'm very proud of the fact that I could say they're kind children. They're kind people, and they have friends, and they're good people. And that's what I did as a parent, but I couldn't have done it alone without my wife.
Yeah, sure, you had
I'm
that.
unusual. We've been married a long time. We've been together a long time. We have mutual respect.
Takes
And,
2 people to create this child. It'll take 2 people to bring them up.
Right.
And why should anything be different? I don't know. But those are the best systems we have. What do you think the future of politics is regarding this tremendous infighting that's going, not only national politics, which most people see on TV, but on local political levels too? That there's infighting between the Democrats within themselves, and there's also the left and the right of the issue fighting themselves over the high ground, or the moral high ground, to create change in the public.
Well, what I see going on locally now is you're finally getting a lot more business people running for office, because they're just fed up, and they want to get the job done. I mean, I'm a business person.
That's great news.
I have to get the job done. We have 3 or 4 in Huntington right now. I see them in other areas. For the county legislature, the Republican Party has put up almost every one of the challenging candidates are a business person, or there's one that's a prosecuting attorney, and she's really good. But we're getting more and more. It used to be 9 out of 9 were lawyers. Now we have maybe 5 out of 7, now business people. We're fed up. We know that they can't. It's funny. When I'm in business and I have a conflict, I go to my attorney and he says, settle. Make a compromise and settle, because it's going to cost you too much money to fight.
Right.
But when they get elected to office, they spend all this time fighting, and they don't want to settle and come up with a solution.
It's a fantastic point.
As
yeah.
a business
Yeah.
person, we really need to come up with solutions. I have to balance my books every day. And then I have to see my expenses, I have to look at my income, and then I have to make adjustments accordingly.
Well,
I got to work with efficiency and effectiveness, and that's what we should be doing in government.
Absolutely. The implications legally are attached to government agencies, to the school districts, to driving health costs up with all this frivolous lawsuits and against businesses. The John Q. public has no idea that the legal system is actually encroaching too heavily into the private sector
And government.
and government.
I mean, we have right now a health department that has 9 divisions. One health department with 9 divisions. Someone tries to apply for a permit to open up a business. It's taken them 4 to 8 months to open up to get their permit. And that's stopping job growth. That's stopping.
Sure.
Stopping a business. It's delaying the generation of taxes, which we need to pay certain bills, as opposed to just property taxes. There's quite a few ways. Certainly, the legal system doesn't make sense a lot of times.
We only have a few minutes left. Let me hit on a couple of things we have left. Property taxes, they're skyrocketing. Is there anything we can do on the local level? Is there anything that you can do on the local level that can change the direction of the property tax situation, which is killing us today?
Well, from a county point of view, only 1.8% of the $2.7 billion budget comes from property tax. So it's nothing. They get all their revenue mostly from sales tax. The bulk of your property tax is generated from the school districts.
But it's still high. I mean,
well, the problem is the school districts have mandates. They have federal mandates. They have state mandates. The only revenue a school district gets is either state aid, federal aid, or property taxes.
Yeah, and as soon as there's a problem with the tax, what they do is they cut off the buses and athletics. Things that you need, the parents need.
They can't do the buses anymore.
Oh, thank God. So, when did this pass? That was good.
That was several years ago. They couldn't eliminate the buses.
Thank God.
But you're right. But athletic, that's what they
Or
threaten.
the band or whatever else.
Athletics, band, art programs, all the things that parents really want.
Music.
All the things parents really
want.
want.
They keep your kids busy a few more hours till they get home. It would be nice. They
After-school
get
programs,
you, don't they, as a homeowner?
AP courses. That's right. The only solution for that is that we need to keep going after the state. And as a county legislator, as an elected official, I would do that. I would fight the state because I'd have a little more of a influence on them because they'd be afraid I was going to run against them. So you can't sit there and say, okay, that's a county issue, but it's not. It's all of our issues. The school districts are hamstrung. They really can't make certain decisions. They have mandates. They have federal mandates. They have state mandates. The federal government is supposed to handle immigration.
Yeah, there's so much of the county budget. The mandates overlap everything else. They're so big that you can't move if you try to change anything. What are you going to shoot for, that 3% or that 1% that's left? Yeah.
Exactly.
And, okay, real quick, the unions, you got about 30 seconds. The power of the unions, is there any effect that you can make as a county legislator on what the unions are, for instance, in schools? The power of the school unions has really caused them not to be able to educate. We have to do this in 15 seconds.
Yes.
Can you do it?
Well, I think that the teachers' union should negotiate. What the state should do is have all the teachers' union negotiate their contracts statewide.
Good.
Not locally, because what they're doing right now is pitting one school district against the other. So if your school district gives you 2%, then my school district says, well, he got 2%, we want 2.25%. Do it statewide.
Statewide, good idea. Thank you very much, Dennis Garetano, in the Suffolk County 17th Legislative Candidate, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Societal and political trends are rapidly breaking down the family that once was the cornerstone of our great American culture. At FIT, we know you cannot get this information on your own, so we'll bring it to your TV every single week. My name is DiMaggio, and I thank you very much for watching FIT TV, and we'll see you again next week.